Today we have two special guests. These two exalted devotees, they have kindly agreed to join our festival just for one day. And so first of all, I would like to welcome Shubha Vilas Prabhu. He came from India. He just arrived last night. And Shubha Vilas Prabhu, he's a disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, whose Vyasa Puja is being celebrated today. Today is appearance day of Radhanath Swami. Hari Bol. His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj ki jai. And Shubha Vilas Prabhu is very well known all over the world as a influential writer and also speaker. He has given over 6,000 talks. He's an empowered preacher. He wrote a lot of books, amazing books. He actually brought them here, so I'm gonna set them up at our bookstall. So you can, when the class is over, you can please kindly look at, and you can purchase them. And then we have Krishna Abhishek Prabhu, and Krishna Abhishek Prabhu is a jewel-like devotee. Since the first moment when I actually met him, I was amazed by his deep, profound knowledge of the teachings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In fact, Prabhu, he's actually, how to say, he's actually protecting the legacy of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's teachings, and he's working in Santa Fe College. His students, they study Lord Chaitanya's scriptures and everything. So he is the one. I'm so proud to get him here. I'm so proud because, just by having his association, you will actually experience presence of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because he's so knowledgeable, and both of them, they're here. And please welcome them, please let them feel comfortable, if they need anything, whatever. And now they're gonna give us their association.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Rama Rama Hare Hare.
I would like to thank Kashishwar Prabhu for inviting us here And he's not here, but that was a very kind introduction. I don't agree with everything he said, but it was very sweet of him to say it. But whatever he said about Shubha Vilas Prabhu is absolutely correct. I come to Pine Lake Retreat often, and I was here doing Harikatha on Gaur Purnima, and I come for other kinds of programs, but it's nice to be in the association of Vaishnavas here. As Kasheshwar Prabhu mentioned, by some twist of fate, I have had this very interesting relation with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I ended up doing my PhD on him at the University of Chicago. And I also, it's not that I took it very seriously, but I found out that my paternal cousins are the Mustafis, which is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mother's side. So he was born on their ancestral land in a place called Birnagar. And again, by some twist of fate, I ended up managing and helping maintain some of his places. And so what I have today, because this is a very special program, what I have today for you is a poem that from his notebook that hasn't been published yet. So you are some of the first group of people on planet Earth to hear straight from the lips of Bhaktivinoda Thakur on what it means to be Krishna conscious. So he wrote a series of poems, and I can show this on my phone. Can you see his handwriting there? No? Okay, you can. At the end, we can come closer and take a look. But you can take a look through the last room. And so he wrote a series of poems, and the first one is called Upadesh, or advice. The second one is called Vrindavan, right? So advice is, why should we take up Krishna Bhakti? The second one is, what is Vrindavan? The third one is called Krishna Chandra. Who is Krishna? The fourth one is called Prarthana, or prayers. The fifth one is called Vaishnava Prarthana, prayers to Vaishnavas. The sixth one is called Chaitanya Abhirbhava, which is the birth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the seventh one is called Gaura Chandra, right, Mahaprabhu's Tattva. And that is the series of songs he wrote when he was at Jagannath Puri in the 1860s. So what I'm going to do is read his Bengali and translate it live, okay? And if you don't understand anything, just pause me and ask questions, and then we will hear from Shubha Vilas. Is that a good program?
Absolutely.
So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Upadesh. Upadesh means good advice. Ohe priyo bandhujan, my dear friends. Okay, so he's talking to you, remember. Ohe priyo bandhujan, shuno mor nivedon. I have a thing to tell you. Please listen to me. Jodi chaho anando apar. Only if you're looking for happiness that doesn't end, my dear friends, listen to me. Joro shukho nahi mano. Don't think that the pleasure you experience in this material world is all in all. Don't accept it. Chidananda tattva jano. But rather, try to understand what is transcendental enjoyment. Ashadana karo sheishar. And then go and relish the essence of that. So my dear friends, please listen to me. If you want endless joy, don't accept material happiness. Understand what is transcendental happiness and go relish it. Maddo mangsho khaddo shuk. It is true that alcohol and meat gives some pleasure in, has some pleasure in eating. Shakoli jano ho duk. But know that actually that is miserable. Shukho bhromo matro hoy, sharo hoy. Alas, it is just a mistake that we accept suffering as pleasure. Indriyo Vilas joto, every way you decide to please your senses, shokoli shukher moto, it is just, it has a semblance, a reflection to happiness. It's not really that. Kintu nitto shuko nahitai. There is no eternal happiness in that. আশা পাশে বদ্ধ হয়ে অনর্থের সঙ্গ লয়ে কেন ভ্রমিতেছ নিরন্তর? My friend, why are you wandering for so long aimlessly, being tied up with the noose? You know what a noose is? A rope that you use to hang people. So you have this noose around your neck and you think it's a garland. Asha pashe, you're stuck with the noose of future hopes that I will be happy in the future. And you're wasting away your life now in pursuit of that future happiness, right? But that is actually a noose around your neck. And who are your best friends? Anarthas. So being stuck with the noose of future hopes around your neck and being friends with your bad anarthas, why are you aimlessly wandering for so long? আশার না আছে শেষ, মৃগা তৃষ্ণ অবশেষ, ফলমাত্র দুঃখের সংসার. There is no end to the hopes that you imagine up in your head. You just keep thinking more and more and more. At the end of the day, অবশেষ, মৃগা তৃষ্ণা, it is like drinking water from a mirage. You go in a desert, you see some reflection of water, and you are thirsty because you're in a desert, and you chase it, and you think you are getting that water, but when you get there, there is no water. So the hopes we have for enjoyment in the future is like chasing mirages. Pholomatra, and what is the end result? Dukhero samsar, that you are stuck here in this world, and you will experience misery. Deharup vriksho grihe, so your body is like a tree. জীব পক্ষী অপগতে ইন্দ্রিয়ার্থ কি করিবে হায়. So your body is like a tree, and every friends, relatives, they're like birds on a tree. They come for some time, they stay some time with you. But what is the future hope? Because everybody is only looking for the pursuit of enjoyment based on their senses. Chandra, Surjo, Bayu, Jal, প্রকাশিয়া শিও বল আমন্ত্রিতে নারিবে তোমায়. So at the end of the day, what will happen? The sun, the moon, the wind, the water, they will show their own strength. That means, your body will disintegrate sooner or later. They will not invite you for a feast. আমন্ত্রিতে নারিবে তোমায়. প্রিয়জন কোলাহল Hahutas chintanol. So priyojan, so how are we spending our lives? In, screaming, talking, laughing, arguing. It's called kolahal, right? Chaos. And, we are spending our lives in chaos with our loved ones. That's what life looks like for most of us, at least me. Priyojan kolahal, hahutas chintanol. Hahutas means sighs of sorrow, a regret, frustration. Chinta anol. Anol means fire, and chinta means worry. So, and you are constantly being burned by the fire of worries. Jagaite pare ki tomare. So, are these things actually able to wake you up? Mahanidra jale pori jabe tumi goragori. So, you have fallen in the web, in the net of a great sleep. And you are just going around, stuck in that net. Bhashakit bishtadi bikare. So, and you are being disturbed by bugs and stool and things like that. যাদের স্নেহে তুমি ভুলিয়াছ কত ভূমি কুকুর ও শৃগালও তাহা খায়। The thing that you value the most, right, is basically food for dogs and wolves. Right? Because in India, back in the day, some people who could afford would get burnt, others were left on the banks of the Ganges, and the dogs and wolves would come and eat the dead body. Right? যতই যত্ন করো কালের করালো করো, no matter how much you care and maintain your body, the jaws of time is merciless. Deho nahi chhare kobu hai. There is not a single person whose body has been spared. অতএব ত্যাজি ভ্রম, therefore my friend, give up your illusion. পরমার্থে কর শ্রম, make effort in paramartha. Artha means wealth. In dharmic scriptures, artha is also meaning. Dharma, artha, kama and moksha are the four aims of life. But whatever transcends these four is parama artha. Right? It says work hard for your spiritual life. Bhajo Krishna chitta binodon. Worship Krishna who always entertains the heart. Right? Krishna is a great entertainer. ভৌতিক বরণান্তরে মনোরূপী সুবিবরা ভেদ তাহা চল বৃন্দাবন. So when you can pierce through the layer of your material body and focus on the realm of what the mind and everything higher offers you, you will be able to pierce through the body and travel to Vrindavan. Gopobesh, Abhrokanti, Toruno Bishado Shanti. So in your spiritual form, you are a part of Krishna's cowherd clan. Toruno, you're forever young. There is no misery or worry. Kalpodrumo Ashrito Sundar. Right? And everything there is sheltered by wish-fulfilling trees. অপরূপ বংশী স্বরে সর্বজীবে মত্ত করে যথা শ্যাম হৃদয়ে ঈশ্বর. And there you will find that there's someone called Shyam who makes every living being intoxicated by his beautiful flute song. জীববৃন্দ গাভিজার ঐশ্বর্য অপারতার. All the cows that surround Krishna are like little jivas, like us. And that is his unlimited wealth. তবু তাই মাধুর্য প্রধান, পুলক কদম্ব তলে আকর্ষণ বংশী বলে সাধকের হরে মন প্রাণ. And there, under the kadamba tree, whose flowers look like the bristling hair on the body of a devotee, he attracts with the power of his flute the mono and the pran, the mind and the very life air of, he steals hare of every sadhaka. And this goes on and on. But I wanted to share a little bit of this poem and also explain how I got there. Right? And today is the auspicious appearance day of His Holiness Radhanath Swami, who is a mentor to both of us. We've had the good fortune of spending a lot of time with him in the Chopati ashram and I in Chicago. And that's what connected us back in 2008 when he was releasing the journey home. He was doing things in Mumbai and I was doing things in Chicago and Calcutta, and that's how our paths crossed. And the reason I am saying what I am about to say is this. The word bhagya means fate, But bhagya also means great fortune. So those who have you been to India? Anybody here who's been to India? The national anthem of India says, Jana Gana Mana Adhinayaka Jaya He Bharata Bhagya Vidhata. So Bhagya there is destiny, but Bhagya means great fortune. Right? One who has Bhaga is Bhagyavan. One who has Bhaga, the 6 qualities, wealth, fame, strength, knowledge, beauty and detachment, to its fullness is Bhagavan. Right? Now in Sanskrit there is a grammatical rule called derivative. Like Pandu is a king, Pandava are his children. Kuru is the king, Kauravas are his children. So this is called Tadhita, right? A derivative. So Bhaga, Bhagya. Bhagavan, you know what Bhagavan is, right? Bhagavan, Bhagavat. So those who belong to Bhagavan are Bhagavat. Shri means fortune, and Shri Mat means those who possess great fortune. So the devotees who possess great fortune is Srimat Bhagavat. Okay? And Bhagavan is also greatly fortunate because of his devotees. So in a way, Srimad Bhagavat are the stories of the devotees all the way to Sri Krishna. And Sri Krishna is also greatly fortunate because, the devotees love him. So Srila Prabhupada once mentioned that the story of Joan of Arc, you've heard of Joan of Arc? He said even that story is Bhagavat. And in this way, Bhagavat is ever expanding. And in our generation, I've had the good fortune of meeting many Bhagavatas, one of whom is His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. And as I was telling Shubha Vilas Prabhu on our way here, I was very close to Tamal Krishna Goswami. I don't know if you've heard his name. And the car in which he was traveling when an accident happened where he passed away, I was supposed to be in that car and he had me come out the night before. So that's why I'm still alive and I got a fresh lease of life because of his decision. And the other thing he did that night was introduce me to Radhanath Maharaj and said, please look after this boy. I was much younger. And over the next 14 years, Maharaj Radhanath Swami gave me a lot of time. But the most interesting thing was, I was at Oxford University doing my research on Lord Jagannath in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I ran out of money. And I applied to the United States. I got a full scholarship at various universities, and I didn't know where I would go. So I went to Radhanath Maharaj and I asked him, where should I go? And he said, go to Chicago without thinking. And I asked him why, and he said, because I live there. And that became the beginning of a very long and fruitful association with a very holy person. And at the University of Chicago, I don't know if you know, have you heard of this place before? It is at the forefront of Vaishnava studies. Practically all of the major PhDs done on Gaudiya Vaishnavism was from there. The Divinity School at the University of Chicago ranks #1 on planet Earth. It ranks above Harvard. And somehow by twist of fate, I found myself there doing my project on Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Apparently, the people who were working on this project hadn't really explored his archives. And when I went back to India for my research, I found this wealth of knowledge that devotees had never seen before. So thankfully I was allowed to serve his deities, and I found out, and I'll stop with this, that the song that Shubha Vilas Prabhu just sang today morning are the names of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's deities. He had one date set of Radha Krishna called Radha Madhava in Orissa. He had Kunja Bihari in Navadvip. He had Gopijana Vallabh in Calcutta. And he was traveling with his Girivaradhari. So Radha Madhava, Kunja Vihari, Gopijana Vallabha, Girivaradhari are the names of his deities. I didn't know that. And so these little things actually deepened my spiritual life. And I have to thank Radhanath Maharaj for pushing me in that direction, giving me the time and relishing all these poems that, like, for example, that I read today. He loves hearing these. So that's why I read this out to you in his honor. And I want to hear more from the great Bhagavat who is sitting with us today. He has a lot to share on our Shastras, and Kashishwar Prabhu started glorifying him, but I must also say that Shubha Vilas Prabhu recently received his PhD on Ramayana and leadership. And as of last month, he is Dr. Shubha Vilas Prabhu. Shubha Vilas Prabhu, the floor is yours.
Hare Krishna. First of all, I'm very grateful to Krishna Abhishek Prabhu for having invited me here. I'm in Florida and Orlando and this place simply because of him. As Krishna Abhishek Prabhu was saying that the mood of a Vaishnava is to somehow find paths and ways of serving together. All of us in the beginning of our lives, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it talks about the living entity by using a particular word. The Bhagavatam calls the living entity as Jantu. The word Jantu means, Jantu is a it. It's a thing, basically. So all of us, when we were born, we were Jantus. And Jantus are people that take from others. So in the beginning of our lives, almost the first 5 years of our life, we're only taking from our parents, taking from our mother, just taking. If you give a small child something, it holds and puts it in the mouth. So the child only knows to take. At some point, the child thinks, let me feed my mother. The day the Jantu thinks about serving someone else, it transforms from being a Jantu to a Jiva. And the day we come across the Bhagavad Gita and the teachings that help us understand that we are not this body but we are spirit soul, much higher, we transform from Jiva to the stage of Atma Tattva. And when we realize our position as servants of Krishna, and we actually understand the mood of being a Vaishnava, from Atma Tattva we progress to the stage of Vaikuntha Chetana, which is a stage at which we all want to be. And the Vaikuntha Chetana stage is a stage at which we find good in others. And we try to appreciate and glorify others. So Krishna Abhishek Prabhu and Kashishwar Prabhu, they have been more in the mood of Vaikuntha Chetana, trying to find good in me. And hopefully I will be able to share some things that will help you reach the consciousness of Vaikuntha Chetana, at least for the little time that we are together in. Let me begin by telling you all some stories. Of all the things that I am, one of the things that I like to call myself is a storyteller. I tell nice stories. Today I'm going to tell you all a couple of stories from Vrindavan, and I'll tell you some things from the Ramayana. Krishna is known as Anubhav Pradhan. Anubhav Pradhan means he has come in this world to give us an experience of the spiritual world. Just like if you want to watch a movie which is 3 hours, you first watch a trailer which is 3 minutes. The trailer is free. You like it, then you watch the movie. You pay money and watch the movie for 3 hours. So Krishna is Anubhav Pradhan. He has come into this world to give us a glimpse of what is there in the spiritual world. If you love it, then you pay the price and go there. Then you'll get the full movie, So I'm going to give you all a little glimpse of the trailer. So trailer obviously is a little longer one, but I'm going to give you all a little glimpse of what the trailer is. And then if you like the trailer, then you can go to Vrindavan and watch the trailer completely. And then I'm going to tell you all something about Lord Ram. Ram is known as Anushtan Pradhan. Anushtan Pradhan means he teaches us what an ideal human being is. And through the Ramayana, we learn what it means to be a good person, what it means to be a good human being. So I'm going to give you all a little bit of Anubhav Pradhan, and I'm going to give you all a little bit of Anushtan Pradhan. That's what I'll do today, okay? Vrindavan is a place of sweetness. Krishna is sweet and Krishna is great. Krishna's greatness is not as great as Krishna's sweetness. I'm going to tell you all some stories of Krishna's life that I came across I heard it from some Vrajvasis in Vrindavan. And these stories have touched my heart so deeply. I wrote an entire book on these stories, a whole collection of Krishna stories in Vrindavan that probably nobody ever knows, And these stories are so deep and so sweet. None of them have any lessons, they're just fun. One time, Krishna was 1.5 years old, very, very tiny. And this story is about how he became a thief, how he became Makhan Chor, I'm sure all of you all know Krishna to be a butter thief, but do you know the story how he became a butter thief? This is the story. When he was about 1.5 years of age, he somehow crawled in his house in Nanda Bhavan, and he reached the store where all the butter and the milk and all that, the ghee and everything is kept. He was amazed to see such a huge collection of food that he loves. And he went inside and he sat next to a pot of butter. He put his hand inside the pot of butter and he began to eat the butter. And he was loving the butter that Mother Yashoda made for him. And as he was eating this pot of butter, he closed his eyes and he was absorbed in eating butter. Suddenly, someone caught his hand. And he opened his eyes and he saw Mother Yashoda caught his hands. And Krishna was scared. This was the first time he was stealing. He was doing something wrong and he got caught. And Krishna, he had to really think fast. Mother Yashoda asked him, "What are you doing here?" So Krishna just very innocently tells his mother that you put bangles, you put bracelets on my hand which are made up of diamonds and rubies and all these stones. It's very hot. These stones are burning my hands and therefore I'm putting my hand in the butter to cool my hands. Mother Yashoda was first concerned. She thought actually his hands were burning. So she touched over here and saw everything seemed all right. Then she looked at him a little carefully. There was butter all over his face. She asked him, if you're putting your hand inside so that you can cool it, then what is butter doing on your face? And Krishna thought again very fast. And he said, actually, when my hand was inside, there was an ant roaming around here, So I removed that ant using my hand. That's how butter came here. Of course, Mother Yashoda understood probably that he's lying, but she just picked him up and took him away from there. That day, Krishna got confidence that he can steal and get away by telling some lies. So from that day, he got more confidence to do such things. One day, when Krishna was about 5 or 6 years old, he went to one gopi's house early in the morning. He went and knocked on the door of the gopi. And this gopi opened the door. Imagine at 6 o'clock in the morning, if someone knocks your door and outside Krishna is standing, So this gopi was amazed to look at Krishna standing outside a house. And this gopi asked Krishna, "What are you doing early in the morning?" And Krishna was very sleepy, just woken up, rubbing his eyes. And he's telling the gopi that Mother Yashoda sent me here to ask you for some butter because we have some very special guests coming to our house. These are some really big sadhus coming and we don't have butter in our house today. So she told me to go to your house because you make really nice butter. So this gopi was flattered. She was like amazed. She said, "Wow, Mother Yashoda is asking me for butter." So she went in and she got 2 pots of butter and she gave it to Krishna and she said, "Please take this from my side to serve the sadhus." And she also gave a packet of mishri. Mishri is sugar candies, She told Krishna that tell Mother Yashoda to add these sugar candies into the into the butter and give it to the sadhus, they will love it. So Krishna said, yes, yes. And he very sincerely said, I will return these two pots of butter tomorrow to you. And she said, no, 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 this is from my side, my seva. So Krishna thanked her, turned behind, and he was leaving. And she closed the door. As soon as she closed the door, Krishna sat outside her house. And all Krishna's friends came running out. They were all hiding till then. And Krishna's friends told him, hey, why are you sitting here? We just stole butter from this house. Krishna said, when you steal butter from somebody's house, the greatest fun is to sit outside their house and eat it. And Krishna sat right there and he told all of them, they all sat in a big circle there. And Krishna was giving butter to everyone. And everyone was eating so nicely and enjoying themselves. In the meanwhile, inside the house, this gopi was, she was hearing all these sounds of, crunching of teeth. When you eat sugar candies, your teeth bites, right? You hear these sounds. So this gopi was thinking, maybe some monkeys are there outside the house creating some nuisance, So she opened the door and she saw all these boys sitting and eating her butter. And she got really upset. She told Krishna, Krishna, what are you doing? You're eating the butter that I gave for the sadhus. And she understood that she has been cheated. And she said, these stupid friends of yours, you're giving them all my precious butter. And then Krishna gets up, very angry at her. He tells her, don't call my friends stupid. You have no idea who they are. They're all big, big sadhus. He's telling them. And, one of them, there was a little boy who was also among that gang, and he was 2 years old. He was so small, he didn't even understand he was caught. He was still eating butter over there, And he was completely naked, totally naked, this boy was. And Krishna points out to this boy and he tells her, see here is a Naga Baba, And he tells her that you should actually pay dandavat to all these sadhus, This lady gets furious. She tells him, I'm going to pay dandavat. She said, I'm going to get a danda, stick, and hit all of them, and that's how I'll pay my respects. All these boys ran away, before she came. One time, Krishna was celebrating his birthday. It was Janmashtami. And Mother Yashoda told Krishna that on your birthday, we should celebrate your birthday by worshipping cow, Go Puja. She said, go to the Goshala and get one cow. So Krishna went to the Goshala, searched. They had 900,000 cows, of which he found the most beautiful cow. And he pulled her and brought her back home. And as he was bringing her inside his house, suddenly Krishna's eyes fell on a pot of butter that was hanging from the ceiling. Krishna completely forgot why he got that cow, He put that, parked the cow below that pot of butter, climbed on the cow, stood on top of the calf and caught the pot of butter. And as soon as Krishna caught the pot of butter, this cow ran away from below. And Krishna was hanging from the ceiling, He started shouting, please help me, help me. Then Mother Yashoda comes over there and she sees, she asked him, how did you reach over there, I told you to get a cow. So Krishna said, no, please help me come down. And Mother Yashoda told him, you hang there. And she went away inside. Another time, it was Krishna's birthday again. And on Janmashtami, on Krishna's birthday, Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj called everyone from across Vrindavan to their house. And the idea is to celebrate Krishna's birthday together. So all the Vrajavasis, they come, and all the small boys, Krishna's friends, they get Krishna gifts. And the gifts that these boys get are very simple gifts. One boy, his name is Bhadra. He comes to Krishna and tells him, Krishna, look what I've got for you. And he has a small cup in his hand. And in that cup is a cow dung paste made of cow dung and little mud of Vrindavan. And he tells, I've got cow dung tilak for you. And he uses that cow dung paste and puts a nice tilak on the head of Krishna. Krishna loves it. He runs around and tells everyone, see what Bhadra has given me, see what Bhadra has given me. Krishna is so excited sharing that little gift that Bhadra has given him. Then another boy gives him a small 3-colored flower. And this boy's name is Toke. So Krishna runs around, shows everyone, see, Toke has given me this little flower. I mean, we see three colored flowers all the time. We don't get so excited, isn't it? But Krishna, whatever his friends give him, he gets so excited. They are small gifts, basically. So, like this, all of his friends give him little tiny gifts. And then Krishna goes to his mother and father and tells them, I want to give gifts to my friends. So, the Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, they spend the entire year collecting gifts so that Krishna can give it to his friends on his birthday. And Nanda Maharaj takes Krishna to a room which is filled with very, very precious and costly gifts. There is a conch from the deepest ocean, a huge conch. And then there is a diamond, very, very precious diamond. And then there's a shawl from one of the most warm places, or rather cold places. And the shawl is very warm. So like this, Nanda Maharaj is showing Krishna, you can give all these gifts to your friends. And Krishna compares the gifts that are there in that store with the little gifts that his friends have given him. And Krishna starts crying. He says, no, these gifts are not nice. I want to give them nice gifts. And he starts crying. So Nanda and Yashoda have no idea what is nice gifts, because these seem to be really nice gifts. But Krishna doesn't like any of them. And then Krishna's crying on his birthday, and his mother and father are feeling very bad, They don't know what to do. They don't know how to pacify him. And at that time, Balramji comes to their rescue. And Balram asks Krishna a question, a very beautiful question. Balramji asks Krishna, what do you have that your friends don't have? And he says, give that as gift. So Krishna starts thinking, what do I have that my friends don't have? After a little thinking, Krishna suddenly gets an idea. He runs. He goes to his friend Bhadra. He hugs him tightly. And he tells him, Bhadra, I am yours. What is it that his friends don't have? They don't have Krishna only. So what Krishna gives them? He gives himself. He goes to every friend, hugs that person, and he tells, I'm yours. Now imagine, if you give a little to Krishna, what Krishna gives back in return? He gives himself. You can't get a better gift than that, isn't it? What a beautiful friend to have. So when we all are trying to do a little bit to serve Krishna, to connect with Krishna, we think that we are giving a lot. But what Krishna gives back in return is something we can't imagine, isn't it? And this is Krishna and Vrindavan. Therefore Krishna is known as Anubhav Pradhan. When you hear these little stories of Krishna, you can't but fall in love with Krishna, isn't it? You can't but feel that I want to know him more. I want to experience him more. And that's what Vrindavan is. Now I'm going to change the flavor a little bit and go to Ram Leela. And let's understand something from the point of view of Anushtan. As I said, Ramayan, Ram is about Anushtan Pradhan. Anushtan Pradhan means he tells us what we should do in this world, how we should live our life in this world. So I'm going to tell you all a couple of stories from the Ramayana that will help us understand the concept of how we live our lives here. The Ramayana is primarily one of the rasas that is in the Ramayana is known as Karuna Ras. Karuna Ras means it's the rasa of compassion, is a rasa of sacrifice. In the Ramayana, everyone is crying. Ram is crying, Sita is crying, Kaushalya is crying, Dasharath Maharaj is crying. Everyone is crying. Why? Because leadership means responsibility. Responsibility means sacrifice. And sacrifice means tears. So whenever a leader, that person understands what life is about, that person makes a lot of sacrifices for the sake of other people. So here is a story in the Ramayana that will help us understand this concept better. Lord Ram and Mother Sita, they were sitting together in the palace. And that day, they were going to be coronated as the king and queen of Ayodhya. And just 1 or 2 hours post this point, the coronation is going to happen. And at that time, Sumantra, who is the Prime Minister of Ayodhya, he sent there to invite them to meet Dasharath and Kaikeyi. So Sumantra goes there and tells Ram and Sita that the king and queen are calling you. So Ram gets up Now, for those who don't know the story of I hope all of you all know the story of Ramayana. All of you all know the story of Ramayana? Okay, good. Take it. Wonderful. If you know the story of Ramayana, I can go deeper, So, when, so the previous day, it was decided that Ram is going to become the king the next day morning. And in the night, Kaikeyi, the queen of Dasharath, she convinces him that Ram should not be the king, but her son Bharat should be the king, and Ram should be sent to exile for 14 years. And this is the next day morning, when Sumantra is inviting Ram and Ram to meet Dasharath and Kaikeyi. So Ram gets up and tells Sita that I'm coming back. And he tells her something very interesting. He tells Sita that father and mother want to do something good for us. What are they wanting him to do? Go to the forest for 14 years, isn't it? Is that good? It's not good, isn't it? For a person. But Ram is preparing Sita's mind to understand that whatever father and mother tells is good for us. We may not understand why it is good, but it is good. So Sita, she smiles at Ram, and Ram walks away. And he reaches the door of the palace. And he was about to leave. He turns behind, removes the garland from his neck and puts it on Sita's neck and smiles at her. Sita looks at Ram and smiles at him. And then Sita, she with her eyes weaves an imaginary garland around Ram's neck and she smiles at him. Then Ram looks at her and smiles at her and he leaves. Now Sumantra is here. He is watching this, this episode between the husband and wife. And Sumantra is not able to understand what just happened. In today's world is a world of communication, right? There's so much communication that happens today. We have so many means of communication. But in spite of so much communication happening, there is so much misunderstanding happening today, isn't it? But here in Sita and Ram, they are not even talking to each other. But without talking to each other, just by their gestures, they're actually talking a lot. So now let me explain what just happened between them. So when Ram was about to leave, he turns around and puts a garland around Sita to tell her, I'm going now as a king of Ayodhya, but when I come back, I'll be a beggar. I'll not have anything to give you except fruit, leaves and flowers. Will you be okay accepting me like that? Sita smiles at him and she tells him, yes, of course. And then she weaves a garland around his neck, an imaginary garland, telling Ram, for me, your association is the most important thing. If I have you and your association, I don't need anything else. It's more valuable than all the gold in this world. So Ram understands that. He smiles and he goes. The sweetness in human dealings is when you actually understand one another. When you actually learn to see beyond the verbal communication. So Ram goes to the palace, and in the palace, Kaikeyi tells him that you have to go to the forest for 14 years, and Bharat is going to become the king of Ayodhya in your place. Now imagine if you are given a news like this, that from tomorrow onwards, you have zero money in your bank. How will you handle it? It's not easy, isn't it? Suddenly, if stock market crashes and people lose all their money, it's not easy for a person to deal with it. But Ram, the moment he heard this news, he looked at Kaikeyi and smiled. And you know what he tells her? He tells her, thank you very much. I've been waiting for such an opportunity. He tells her that I've always wanted to go to the forest and study from the sages. And these 14 years are not 14 years of exile, but they're actually 14 years of upgradation, of learning. I'm going to get so much opportunity to study from the sages. And he thanks her for it. There is eagles are sometimes attacked by crows. The crows are so small, isn't it? And eagles are huge. But when an eagle is attacked by a set of crows, the eagle can just hit the crow and the crow will die. But the eagles never fight against the crows. You know what the eagles do? They fly higher. They fly so high that the crows can never reach the eagle. So similarly, the Ramayana teaches us a very important principle of life. whenever you are experiencing negativity, whenever people are trying to hurt you, disturb you, bewilder you, you know, uh, it's not, you don't have to go and meddle around with that negative energy and try to solve the problem and all that. Ram could have started a revolt in Ayodhya. He could have said, this is not fair, and he could have fought with his father and mother. He could have done so many things. But instead, what did Ram do? He saw it from a higher principle. He saw it from a much higher principle, and he walked away. The Ramayana teaches us some very practical rules and principles of life. It teaches us how one can apply the teachings, these very deep principles, on a very lofty platform. And that's what makes the Ramayana very unique and very special. I'm going to share with you all a very beautiful story from the Ramayana that again teaches us a very powerful principle of life. And this will be the last story I'll tell. And beyond that, we can probably have some question answers and discussions. When Ram, Lakshman and Sita were in the forest, they spent 13 years in exile already. On their 13th year, one day, as Sita was plucking flowers, she saw a beautiful golden deer in front of her. When she saw this golden deer, she was mesmerized. She loved it. She went to Ram and told Ram, "Look at this golden deer." Ram saw the golden deer and tells Sita, "I'll get it for you." So Sita wanted to take the golden deer with her to Ayodhya and keep it in the gardens of Ayodhya. Lakshman, he's a little skeptical of this golden deer. Lakshman tells Ram, "In my entire life, I have never seen a golden deer. There is nothing called a golden deer in God's creation." So he tells Ram, "Don't go. This is not a golden deer." Ram tells Lakshman, "In 25 years, the only thing Sita has ever asked me is for this golden deer." So he said, "I have to go and get this for her." And Ram tells Lakshman, "You take care of Sita. I will go and get the golden deer and come back." And Ram leaves. In this story, Valmiki Muni, when he is calling the golden deer, rather when he is addressing the golden deer, he uses a very interesting word. He uses the word Abhiram. Abhiram means something that is not Ram. So when you get attracted to the golden deer, Ram goes away from your life. So Ram went away from Sita's life. When Ram went away, Ravan enters Sita's life. So in today's world, all of us are are just like Mother Sita. We are all in this material world, and we get attracted to golden deers. iPhone 14, another golden deer, Tesla cars, another golden deer. So many golden deers roaming around us, isn't it? When we get attracted to the golden deer and we say, "I want this golden deer," Ram walks away from our life. In the previous days, at least in India, this was the scene. On top of every house, there would be a flag. And that flag represents that the center of this house is God. The deity would be the center of every house. So on top of every house, there would be flags. And in the center of every house, there would be deities. But after a certain point, it transformed. Now on top of every house, there is a dish antenna. And in the center of every house is a television, So essentially, the deity got replaced by a TV, And so when Ram went away, Ravan comes into Sita's life. And Ravan comes disguised as a sadhu. He comes dressed as a sadhu, right? So Sita initially thought this is a saint. And saints come into our life to do something good for us, isn't it? So Sita originally thought that Ravan has come to her life to do something good for her. Initially, when television came into India, the channels that the only things that they would show on the television was news. They would show about how to do farming well. They would do all these nice things which are very important for human beings to learn. And people felt television is great. They welcomed television into their life. And as soon as television got settled down into our lives, Ram went into one corner, If you go to people's houses in India now, you'll find that altar in some corner of the house where you can't keep anything, they'll keep deities. They'll keep God. And then, once television got settled, then it showed it 10-headed form, 100 channels, 200 channels. That's Ravan, typically. Expanded himself. And the moment Ravan showed his 10-headed form, he took Sita and put her in Lanka. All of us were in the spiritual world with God at some point in our life. But because we got attracted to the golden deer, Abhiram, Ram went away from our life and Ravan entered into our life. And we all reached Lanka. Material world, Orlando, any place in this material world is Lanka only. And in Lanka, Sita was away from Ram. And constantly she was repenting for her mistake of choosing the golden deer over Ram. And then she kept chanting the holy names of Ram constantly. All of us are in the material world, very far away from God. And the only hope for us is if we remember the holy names of God and constantly keep chanting the names like Mother Sita. And when Sita kept chanting the holy names of Ram, at some point Hanumanji comes into her life. Hanumanji represents the spiritual master, the Guru, who comes with the money, with that ring. And that ring represents the mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And Hanumanji comes and reminds her of her connection with Ram. He narrates the story of the Ramayana. And as Sita hears the story of the Ramayana and remembers her connection with Ram, her whole memory revives. Similarly, we come into this material world and we have forgotten completely about our connection with God. We have forgotten completely about who we are and why we are here, what our relationship with God is. And then someone comes and reminds us. In the Bollywood industry, there are movies where the hero forgets everything. And the heroine takes the hero to a garden. And in that garden, she sings a song. And as she's singing the song, this fellow's memory slowly starts coming back. And suddenly he starts remembering everything. There was one devotee. There was one man actually, who was a banker. And this is a very interesting story. This man, he was a banker. He was going in a train to his bank. And while he was going in a train to a bank, he sat on a seat. He put his suitcase on top of a rack, and he sat there. As soon as he sat there, the train went a little ahead. It jerked, and the suitcase fell on his head. This fellow lost his memory. Completely lost his memory. And he went around, started asking everyone, "Who am I? Where am I going?" And then he got off the platform in the next platform, and he started asking everyone, "Who am I? Where am I going?" He didn't know who he was. Somehow he met the Hare Krishna devotees. And he asked them this question, "Who am I? Where am I going?" Imagine asking a Hare Krishna devotee this question. Very dangerous question to ask. They told him, "You are a devotee of Krishna and you are supposed to be, serving Krishna." Finally, he found someone who told him who he is, And the devotees took him to the temple and he started living in the temple with them. He started chanting 16 rounds eventually. He started wearing dhoti kurta, tilak and shaved head and all that. And he was doing nice seva. One day he was in the kitchen. 6 months he lived like that in the temple. He was in the kitchen cutting vegetables. And while he was cutting vegetables, one rack of tomatoes fell on his head. And suddenly he got his memory back, And he started wondering, what am I doing here? He had dhoti kurta and knife in his hand. And so he asked everyone, what am I doing here? They told him 6 months you have been here only, And then he got his memory back. He went home. But he continued his practice of Krishna consciousness and he became a wonderful devotee. The point is that all of us are like Mother Sita. We are in Lanka. And in Lanka, we are surrounded by Sita was surrounded by 700 monsters. These were one-eyed and one-eared monsters. All of us are in the material world surrounded by people who are one-eyed and one-eared. What does a one-eyed, one-eared monster represent? The one-eyed, one-eared monster represents people who have great ego. And all these people are trying to convince us Ram doesn't exist, only Ravan exists. So Sita was being convinced by all these people, forget Ram, marry Ravan. But Sita continued chanting the holy names of Ram. And then Hanumanji comes into our life. The Guru comes into our life. So no matter where we are in the material world, no matter what our association is, if we continue chanting the holy names of God, one day the spiritual master will come into our life. And he'll give us the mantra. And he will also give us the conviction that very soon Ram will come. And then eventually Ram does come. Sita continues chanting the holy names of Ram and Ram comes and takes her back to Ayodhya. So that is what Ramayana is. So technically, it seems that Ramayana seems to be a story of the past, but it's actually a story of our life. It's actually a story that teaches us what we need to do in our life to live a life of purity, a life of austerity, and reconnect back with our with Lord Ram. Krishna and Ram are both very, very amazing personalities that we need to really understand and study. It is explained that it's great to study the words of Krishna and the actions of Ram. It's not a great idea to study the actions of Krishna. Very confusing, because Krishna is here to. You can't imitate Krishna's actions. He's too powerful. He's like the supreme personality of Godhead. But Ram's actions you can definitely learn and imbibe in your life. So when we study these two personalities to completeness, it really helps us understand our own life in a better way. And whatever we learn from our teachers, isn't it? In my little journey of spiritual life, I've learned a lot from my teacher Radhanath Maharaj. I've been asked to speak a little bit about Maharaj today because it's his Vyas Puja. Um, uh, my journey with Radhanath Maharaj has been over last 25 years now, and I've served him very, very closely over the whole, almost for 10 years. I've been helping him with his books, The Journey Home. We sold close to about 500,000 copies of Journey Home in India, through. And if I tell you the number of experiences that I've had with Maharaj and in terms of how he has touched people's lives, is just unbelievable. I'm going to tell you all one or two stories of Radhanath Maharaj's life, which I've seen with my own eyes, that will help you understand who he is and what a person he is. This was the year, I think 2009 or 2010, when Journey Home had just come out, and people, there's so many people who were they were not even devotees, they were like no way connected to ISKCON, but they were inspired by reading The Journey Home. There was one man who came from another state to Mumbai just to meet Maharaj. And he came like a long distance. And I had asked Maharaj, can you please meet him? And Maharaj said, fine. And this man had read Journey Home. He was so inspired to meet Maharaj. And the time for the meeting was set at 7 p.m. And this man, at 5 o'clock, he confirms with me, I'm coming, I'm leaving from my place, I'm traveling to come there. I said, fine, please come. Maharaj has already given an appointment. At 6 o'clock, Maharaj's secretary calls me and tells me, Maharaj is too exhausted, he's going to sleep. So I was shocked. This guy is coming from another state to meet Maharaj, and he has only one evening here, and Maharaj is going to sleep now, So I didn't know how to handle him. So I went to Maharaj and told him, Maharaj, can you at least please write something for, just to give it to him, So Maharaj said, fine. He wrote something down in a small piece of paper, and gave me some gifts to give him. So I said, fine, at least this much will pacify this guy, So he got a little late and he reached at about 7:30 or something like that. And I made him sit down next to me. I was trying to build up the whole story, how, Maharaj got sick and he's not there. And I was trying to calm him down, I gave him that handwritten letter and I gave him the gifts that Maharaj gave. So this man felt very bad, but at least he felt pacified that he got that letter. Just when this man was about to leave, I get a call from Maharaj's secretary saying that Maharaj wants to meet him. So now I kind of got shocked, because usually when Maharaj goes to sleep, so he has this whole net, a huge net that they put up, and there's a big arrangement for him to sleep, right? So he had gone to sleep inside all that. So there was no chance that Maharaj would have got up after that, right? And then suddenly I get this call saying that Maharaj wants to meet him. First of all, this man was late by almost half an hour to 45 minutes. So even if Maharaj wanted to meet him, it would have been 45 minutes before, right? But here is Maharaj with no prior idea that this person is there in the temple, he's still waiting and all. And he says Maharaj wants to meet. So I ran up with this man to meet Maharaj. And Maharaj, fresh, as if he just had a bath and just worn tilak and all that, fresh. So imagine, He got up exactly 10 minutes before, packed up everything, had a bath, and was ready with, to meet this man. And this man, his life was transformed that day. First of all, he got a handwritten letter from Maharaj. On top of that, he got to meet Maharaj also. And then he got some gifts also. So I found that in Maharaj's life, his life is a life of sacrifice. He can exhaust himself to the limit and still be there for people. It's not easy for a person to do that, isn't it? Because when we get tired, we are tired. And no matter how many people are there, we just say we want to go to sleep. And we just crash off, isn't it? But the way Maharaj functions is that he goes beyond what is normal, beyond what is expected. And he really sacrifices himself for helping people, And this whole mood of wanting to serve, wanting to be there for people, is what endears Maharaj to so many of us. What I have seen in Maharaj when he speaks about, if you hear every lecture of Radhanath Maharaj, he speaks about Trinadapi Sunichena, Tararapi Sahishtanam, Amani Namana Dena Kirtaniya Sadhari. I don't think you will find even a single lecture where Maharaj doesn't speak this verse, And he lives by it. I've seen him for so many years living by this verse. It's not that he is speaking it and he doesn't mean it. He lives by it. And when he interacts with people, it is so personal. One time, I was giving a Bhagavatam class in the temple, and I, spoke the entire Bhagavatam class, and Radhanath Maharaj happened to be in the temple that day. He was in his room, obviously. After the Bhagavatam class, this was like late in the afternoon. The Bhagavatam class happened in the morning at this time, and late in the afternoon, I was walking around in the temple courtyard, and Maharaj meets me there, and he catches hold of me and he tells me, "You gave a very nice class." And I was embarrassed, that Maharaj is saying like that. And he said, "I heard your class." He said, "You gave a very nice class." And then he stood right there. And for the next 15 minutes, he told me every single point I spoke in the class. Every single point, one after another, in the same order that I spoke, he told me. Imagine, this is afternoon. All of us hear classes, isn't it? When we walk out of the room, do we remember anything we heard? 95% we forget everything. So many people come and tell me, "You gave a very nice class." I asked them, "What did I speak?" They said, "Whatever it was very nice." Hardly anyone remembers, And here is someone who is so exalted, first of all, and he not just remembers, this is late in the afternoon, he's able to recall every single point. And that is probably one of my first or second class probably in my entire life in ISKCON. And I was like way, way junior. And yet he remembers every single point. I was so encouraged. I was so touched. I said, wow, this is something else, So great personalities like Radhanath Maharaj, they actually not only imbibe the principles of Vaishnavism that we see, we speak about or we hear about, but they actually are living examples of it. When we speak about moving from the mood of Jantu to the mood of Jiva to the mood of Atman Tattva and finally Vaikuntha Chetana, we need to see live examples in our life. And when we see live examples of Vaikuntha Chetana in our life, we also get the hope that maybe someday I'll reach there. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.